you're asking how people had an impact on the project in my personal life. Um, Oddly enough, no one in my personal life knew that I was even working on this project. No one. Um, there's so many little different dynamics and things that went on with this, but no one knew. Um, it was in May when God, was like, I posted a story, another entry on social media, and God was like, okay, now, um, put it in a journal. And I was just like what? How? I had no clue. But beyond that point, I couldn't tell anybody because God said, this is for you. This is not for anybody else to do. And so while no one knew what I was working on, they also didn't know how they were affirming, confirming, um, and contributing to the project, unbeknownst to them. So early on, I'll give you two scenarios. One of them is escaping me right now, but hopefully it'll come back to my remembrance. I'll give two scenarios. It was the first scenario where I had started content, writing what would go inside the journal because I was certain that it just wasn't a book with lined paper. I was certain that it had content because that's what God had showed me. And so I had started writing some of the content. And the content, meaning there are scriptures in here and there's words of encouragement. And oftentimes when I get a word of encouragement or something that comes to mind that God gives me, I'll jot it in the notes section as well. So I had a whole bunch of that, but I didn't have so many scriptures. And so I had chosen a particular scripture. Don't remember what it was, so don't ask me. I had chosen a particular scripture. And I kind of, was going back and forth like, should I use that? Should I not? Does this word go with it? Does this, so I was kind of uncertain. And whenever I get in a space of uncertainty, I'm like, God, you got to show me, tell me some way, somehow. And so in that particular instance, what happened is was on Clubhouse and part of a 24-hour prayer room inside the man cave. And in that prayer room, I think it was like on a Wednesday morning, because that particular prayer room went 24 hours. So it was that Wednesday morning, the room obviously was still open. And I went in and there was a gentleman praying. And he prayed. When he prayed, he also
who was this gentleman? Can we get a name? Because I know Clubhouse is listening in right now, and I hate to intrude. I really hate to intrude. I just got to remind everybody: if you're listening via Clubhouse, you want to submit all those questions to Enaz, who should be in the top left corner of the room. If you're listening from Facebook, go ahead, type your questions in. We're going to be taking questions from Facebook as well. Type your questions in the comment section. Ms. DeVita is open to answering those. If you're listening from Instagram Live, we want to hear from you. Type those questions in, send them to us. But Ms. DeVita, please go ahead. Do tell, who is this gentleman?
So the gentleman was Mr. Terrell Anderson.
Oh, Mr. Terrell Anderson. Okay, go copy.
Terrell had prayed, and he had also, while in the midst of praying and just kind of holding that space, he also had mentioned the scripture. And I was actually doing my morning walk, and that's the piece that I missed, that I left out. I have to backtrack a little bit. I was doing my morning walk. And typically when I take my morning walks, I do not listen to anything, no music, no nothing. It's just me, the air, God, and my walk. But this particular day, I was curious as to know if they were still praying and should I go in there. I kind of went back and forth, but I did obviously end up going in there. And basically, Terrell, with God, um, confirmed that the scripture that I had been kind of going back and forth on, I should indeed include it. And so he was part of the process, unbeknownst to him. He just found this out uh, in September, the end of September. He had no clue that he had any impact on this process. And a lot of people, um, it's just various situations that occurred, various conversations that occurred that God would honestly just affirm that something I had put in the journal was supposed to be there, or just confirm that you're considering putting this, and I'm going to send somebody to confirm that you're thinking and where I have you going is right. So that happened a variety of times on this journey. There was another instance, if I may share, um, where I was so close to being done. I actually thought I was done with the journal. And I was ready to, publish it, and God stopped me in my tracks. And through someone that I do ministry work with, Tamika Reed Sims, um, just was like, well, you need to do this, which was you need to create a landing page. And from there, it just kind of snowballed a little bit. Like, you need to do the landing page, you need to do this, you need to do that. And so I was like, oh my God. So once I processed all that and got through some of the preliminary things, that after she told me I needed a landing page, that he was just like, do this, this, and this. I'm like, okay, I got to get over this, because this is not me, this is God, and I just have to trust him to do this. Well, when I got to the point of, building the landing page, I got kind of frustrated, because I'm like, I need a design, I need this, I need that. But at the same time, this was my project. The things that I did with this project, I know people, I'm connected to people who could have helped me with this, but God wanted me to do this myself. And so I got a design and I started building this landing page, and I got so frustrated, because I'm like, God, you gave me this. Now I need something to go right there, talking about on this page, this website. And I was so frustrated. Um, that was on a Saturday. Yeah, it was on a Saturday morning, late morning, early afternoon. And that morning before I got my day really started with, DeVasia was in the hospital that day. During that time, this was written the whole time DeVasia was in the hospital. That's my daughter, for those of you who don't know. And please forgive me, because I got to backtrack again to get this little piece of story out. That particular morning, I felt an overwhelming desire to have a man pray for me. I thought it was weird. I did not understand it. And I just kind of shook it off, went on about my day, got to the hospital. I'm working on this landing page, and I see a notification that a prayer room had opened on Clubhouse. So I was like, I need to get this done. If I go in there, I'm gonna get distracted. But I still had this, because I needed something to go right there on that webpage. And so at that time, I was like, okay, I'm frustrated. Let me just come off from working on this, and then I'll go in the prayer room for a little while. Well, I went into the prayer room, and I wasn't going to go on stage, and automatically they pulled me up on stage. So then I said, I'm not going to say anything. And I knew in that moment that I probably needed prayer, but I didn't want to ask for prayer. And so it was a couple of people, talking in the prayer rooms. They pray, they give scriptures, they give words of encouragement. So someone was talking. Nonetheless, Toby from Clubhouse asked me if I had anything that I wanted, if I had any prayer requests or whatever, and I try to keep it real general. Yeah, just, I'm working on something, just keep me lifted. And it was just real basic. She's like, okay, Mama, we're gonna go ahead and pray for you. And she prayed a little bit. And then after she prayed, um, a gentleman, another gentleman, came off his mic, and he began to speak a word into my life. And I was just jacked up. And he said what he needed to say. And then he prayed a little bit. And then he came back and he spoke a little bit more, right? So when he spoke, he gave me another word, and he also included a scripture in that word. And from that, if you go to davidamichelle.com and you go on that very first page where it says it's the official website of Davida Michelle, right under my name is a tagline. And that tagline was developed from the word that he gave me. And that person was Thomas Wynn, also known as T. Cruz,
Hey,
also known as the controller of this event.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for answering those questions. I only got one more question before we transition over to the question and answers portion of this live stream. I just want to remind everybody real quick, if you're viewing us from Facebook or Instagram Live, just type your questions away in the comment section of those platforms. We have dedicated team members there that will take your questions, and we will correspond answers from this Zoom. If you're on Clubhouse and you're listening to us from Clubhouse, make sure you back channel Enaz so she can get those questions right on over to us. We appreciate everyone who has decided to join us for this event. It is truly special. I just love everything about this journey, about the intentionality, spiritual connectiveness. This is amazing. My final question to you, before we transition to questions, is what's the purpose here? What do you believe, what do you want to see happen with Dear Future Husband? What's the impact you want to create? I want to kind of tap into what's the outlook. Please give me insight to your vision, and what are you looking to do with Dear Future Husband?